Good evening. Who am I supposed to be? That's what went through my mind in the days and the weeks following my husband's death. As Michael just said, my husband, Chad, had served over 20 years as a Navy SEAL, and he succumbed to the invisible wounds of war. PTSD, TBI, and blast wave injury, and he ultimately took his life in October of 2018. We were together for 27 years. When I was first asked to speak at Sandlot JAX, I thought I would have to recall that day. But Jason said, no, I actually want you to talk about mental resilience. And I thought, I think you're giving me a little bit more credit, Jason. I don't think you really understand the Ferris wheel of emotion that's happening up here. I started to think about mental resilience, and is it different than willpower? Different than grit? Are we born with it? Is it learned? Truth is, I don't really know. But I will share some of my story, and maybe it'll shed light on your own. Growing up, by the time I graduated high school, I had attended 15 schools. My dad was a Marine officer, which meant that we had to move every 1 to 4 years. I went to a different school each year, grades 4 through 9. Imagine that, being the new kid every single year. This means that I don't hold on to a childhood home. I don't have memories and traditions with the same familiar faces year in and year out. I don't have childhood friends since infancy. My core supportive network was actually my mom, my dad, my sister, that's it. Excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought for a second. I spent a lot of time on this, and this story is powerful. What this means is that you basically keep people at an arm's distance. That's what I learned. You keep people away because they're only come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, each of those getting significantly smaller. And to keep yourself safe, you stay away because they don't stay anyway. Chad was my lifetime. Growing up with him, knowing he wanted to be a Navy SEAL, set my life on a trajectory to become a military spouse. And I was okay with that because I think we're all creatures of habit. Good habit or bad habit, we like what we know. What might be scary for most, a life in the military, the danger, the unknown, this was the one time I could slip into the comfort. Something familiar. I was okay with it. I could do it. The years were beautiful and challenging and everything in between. And here's a little bit of what I'll share of that life. I remember where I was when he called and told me he was in a helicopter crash, and you learn to not ask questions. He wasn't at the appointments when we learned the sex of our children, and I carried most of those pregnancies alone, and you learn stoicism. I can recall how many birthdays and anniversaries we actually spent together, and you learn to minimize your expectations. I can recall when our friends died, and we attended military funerals, and you learn to humble your pride. I remember where I was when we heard about the killing of bin Laden, the capture of Jessica Lynch, and so many more stories, and you learn to keep secrets. We went through upwards of 10 deployments together. I spent almost 200 plus days a year parenting alone. Do I regret it? No. But was it hard? Yes. And I often ask myself, I'm just waiting to live my life. Resiliency can be defined as the mental reservoir of strength one uses to call upon in a time of need. Did this make me resilient? Perhaps. I think there's something different that connects resiliency, and it also goes to the heart. You see, as I said, we were together for 27 years. He was mine. I was his. It was we. So naturally, I questioned, who am I supposed to be? The pain I felt was visceral. And I would drive around in my car and I would just say the words pain, pain, pain over and over again. Because I'd read somewhere that if you say what you feel, it somehow is alleviated in the body. I had other coping mechanisms too. I went to therapy. I did EMDR. I read books. I listened to podcasts on death and suicide. I hung out with friends. I avoided all friends. I slept a lot. I didn't sleep a lot. I got more tattoos. I went to Bali. I got a pig. Yeah, I bought a pig. I did plant medicine. I rode my skateboard. I journaled, and I did other things that I'm not completely proud of. The truth is, I was completely falling apart. I was unraveling in every sense of the word. Willpower can be defined as the ability to resist one's urges, emotions, or actions. I had none of it. I cried and yelled at people at the drop of a hat. My dad used to tell me that every choice you make comes with a consequence, good or bad. And if you're okay with the consequence, you should be okay with the decision. I wasn't sure I was okay with the consequences and some of the decisions I was making. And Chad's loss was starting to take permanence in my soul. I've been a CrossFit trainer for 14 years. And one of my mottos is, a successful trainer is one that allows others to find the best within themselves. I needed to be my own coach now. I started to separate myself from Chad. Seeing us as two individuals, we were our own people anyway. What were the traits and values I carried? What were the traits and values he carried that maybe I could continue on? I could carry him in me. He was brave. He was quiet, stoic, a leader, a teacher, and he was unwavering in his goals. I also thought about our upbringing. He was a military kid too, and that maybe keeping people at an arm's length was perhaps part of the downfall. You see, he seemed like he was all alone, but yet he was surrounded by people. And I felt that way too. I started to wonder as I drove in my car all the time, if I said other words, what would happen? So I started to say things like brave, courage, intention, focused, hoping that somehow it would just like embed my spirit and take over. And it reminded me of a story from my childhood. When I was 9 years old, I stood behind the starting block of my first swim meet. I was terrified. And my mom came up to me and she said, "You don't have to be a swimmer. You just have to play the part of a swimmer." Huh? She knelt down beside me and she said, "Come on, McPug." That's my nickname. "No guts, no glory." And I said, "No guts, no glory." The truth is, I never forgot that story. And I realized throughout my childhood and even all those years as a military spouse, I hadn't forgotten it then either. I started to see that this loss is a burden I'm going to carry in a metaphorical rucksack for the rest of my life. I never get to put it down. I just have to get stronger at shouldering it. I thought about the people who've come into my life, the ones that showed up for me after Chad died. I call them the carriers because they carried my heart when he and I could not. I realized that in order to really expand my resilience, I was going to have to fill my heart and my life with others. And then the question changed. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? I thought about it and I realized that all those years of keeping people at an arm's distance to protect myself, I actually needed to lean into them. I realized that I want to take everything life throws at me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the people, the experiences, and I want to embrace all of it. Maybe I learned resilience from my childhood and my marriage to prepare me for my life now. But we live in a world that focuses on easy, comfort, and isolation. And I largely disagree with that. Michael Easter is with us, and he wrote the book, The Comfort Crisis. And if you do but nothing else following this weekend, go home and read that book. Life is meant to challenge us. And I was no exception. I realized that I like challenges. I look towards them. I even thrive on them. And maybe you guys do too. You are going to experience hardship in this life, if not many. No one gets out of this life without heartache. Mine was just traumatic and young. We are meant to experience challenge, and we are meant to see ourselves through it so that we can better understand ourselves and each other. I loved and I lost, and because of that, my heart has been cracked wide open. In many ways, I see the world brighter now. In order to be resilient, we need each other. And wouldn't the world be a kinder place if we looked at each other as if we see the emotional mountains or rucksacks we carry? So yeah, who do I want to be? I will continue to choose no guts, no glory because of my love and my loss. I will lean into the carriers, and I hope that I gain more along the way because that's what allows me to live big. And I hope you do too. Thank you for having me speak.